Hey guys, what's going on today? It's your boy Infinity here, bringing you yet another video on the COD World Championship 2019. Today, of course, I'm going to be talking about day 3 of COD Champs, the first day of bracket play. 16 teams went in, 4 have already been eliminated. We're going to be talking about those elimination matches, as well as an amateur spotlight on the remaining teams in the tournament. All that and more coming up on this video. So we're going to be kicking things off in this video, of course, with a preview of the winners bracket. This is how it looks at the end of day 3. Of course, 4 teams on either side of the bracket. We're talking about each match very briefly, but providing specific focus, of course, on those amateur matches. And we will be kicking things off with E United and Team War. Now, 3-1 was the series. E United were pretty much in control all the way throughout. I think a lot of people coming into this winners bracket, as soon as they saw that War had that draw, immediately they kind of knew that they weren't going to win it. E United, of course, coming off the back of being the Miami Finals champions. To be honest, I don't think War could have really done anything here against E United. They are looking like a very strong squad. Saying that, War played very well, and they played up to expectations. So just couldn't get through there. E United did come out on top. Moving on, Evil Genius and Splyce, of course, accuracy got his revenge. Splyce unable to win that one. Evil Geniuses go through to the winners quarterfinals. This next matchup for me is the best one. I loved watching this. Singularity and Sicario. It was a real toughie. I think most of the maps were incredibly close, apart from the first hard point. But Sicario, they actually came out on top. Going into this, I thought Singularity were going to have it. I mean, they shredded their pool. They annihilated everybody. To be honest, here, I kind of expected a little bit more out of Singularity, and I know they did as well. After this matchup, they weren't very happy with their performances, but Sicario played very, very well. Specific shout out to Exceed. I think he did incredibly well across the respawn game modes, and even in the Search and Destroy as well, a great team effort from Sicario, so even though they didn't win. So, brilliant stuff from Singularity, but Sicario just a little bit better in that matchup. Next up is another surprising result, of course. Team Envious versus Units. Nobody expected these guys to face off in winners round 1, but that is exactly what happened. Of course, Units coming second in their pool, Team Envious coming first. And Team Envious actually ended up losing. I didn't actually watch this matchup, didn't get around to watching it, but I believe that Joe was going off on the main stage, as it were. So Units going to come out on top of that one, of course, and that means Sicario will be facing Units in winners round 2 today. Moving on, though, we've got winners round 1 on the other side of the bracket. Now, this was the side of the bracket that people were saying was incredibly stacked, and it was. First round of matchup, I said it at the very first day, or the second day, sorry, I said, before we actually knew what the winners bracket was, that FaZe versus Reciprocity was a real possibility, and this is happening. It did happen, and Reciprocity ended up coming out on top. FaZe just didn't look like themselves. Saying that, though, Reciprocity were firing on all cylinders. Really, really well played matchup from Team Reciprocity, and they ended up going through. Last few matches, Luminosity ended up shocking 100 Thieves as well. They played very well, a lot better than what we saw in pool play. So they're looking back on form. 100 Thieves, I don't think they expected that there in winners round 1. Moving on to the final 2 matches, Optic Gaming versus Team Heretics. A rather interesting matchup. Of course, Heretics ended up taking the Search and Destroy, but they were no match for Optic in the respawns. Optic ended up coming out on top there. And finally, last but not least, Elevate versus Enigma 6. I said yesterday, Enigma 6, they were on fire. They are, and they're proving themselves here at the COD World Championships. They've guaranteed themselves top 12, and a 3-0 over the they barely scraped through Elevate. Kind of expected for me. I thought Elevate might win a map, but wasn't to be. Enigma 6 do go firing on into winners round 2, and you can see those winners round 2 matchups on your screens as well. You've got E United versus Evil Geniuses. That'll be an interesting one. I do believe E United will win it. We've got winners round 2 as well. You've got Sicario Gaming versus Units. That in itself is an interesting one because Units are playing quite well. They seem to have found a sort of a 7th gear, as it were. But Sicario, I don't know what's going on, man. Exceed is a very, very good player, and the entire squad, when they need to go off, they do. So I don't know how to predict that one. If I had to, I'd probably say I think Units might come out on top. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other winners quarterfinals here, Team Reciprocity versus Luminosity. This is going to be so close to call. I think I'm going to have Reciprocity coming out on top again. Dylan's a factor, man. That's all I'm going to say. And finally, last but not least, Optic Gaming versus Enigma 6. This is going to be the match in the winners' quarterfinals for me. I think Enigma 6 are going to shock a lot of Optic fans, and I think they will beat Optic in that matchup. Enigma 6 have been playing incredibly well throughout this tournament. But that's going to be the winners' bracket. Let's take a look at this losers' bracket. So let's talk about this losers bracket now then. Again, this is where we got to see some of those surprises, some of the best matchups actually of the entire tournament. Now, we'll kick things off with the first matchup, Team War versus Splyce. This is the first big elimination, of course. Splyce ended up losing in Game 5 to Team War. If you did catch the end, which a lot of us did towards the back half of the night, if you're in the UK, at the very least, it was an incredibly tense 1 versus 2 for Splyce. They just couldn't pull it off in the search and destroy. What I will say is, yesterday I said that I thought Josh and Defrag, they are the sort of the players that would need to really play extremely well, especially Defrag, because of course he's that main sub. It's exactly what happened. They played very, very well in that matchup, and Splyce just couldn't really do anything about it. It's a real shock, I will say, but Team War did end up beating Splyce, so amazing stuff from War. I didn't expect that at all. Moving on to possibly my favourite matchup of the night, to be honest, Singularity versus Team Envious. My God, did CleanX play like an absolute god. He destroyed, he dismantled Team Envious on map number 1. I think he dropped something silly, like 35 plus against Team Envy. There's nothing else to say. It was incredible. It was incredible. Beyond the control, which Team Envious, they took apart Singularity on control. It was a quick 3-0, very, very easy for Team Envious. Beyond that little hiccup, Singularity were in complete control of the series. They ended up winning by hard points, and of course, the Search and Destroy, which they are currently unbeaten on at the COD World Championship. So Singularity ended up coming out on top, and they go forth to the top 12, meaning that, including Sicario, of course, and alongside Team War and Singularity, every single team that entered the winners bracket is now still in the COD World Championship 2019. And that means in the last remaining elimination matchups, we did have 2 pro teams leave the COD World Championship, one of which nobody expected, of course, FaZe, having lost their first winners bracket round matchup to Reciprocity, and 100 Thieves losing theirs to Luminosity, set the stage for FaZe versus 100 Thieves. Of course, 2 top 4 teams at Miami ended up having to go head-to-head, toe-to-toe. And this has got to be one of the most disappointing matchups of the night. Of course, FaZe, they went up 2-0 in the series. They were up in the control. They were seconds away from closing it out. Yet somehow, I think it was around 3 or 4, 100 Thieves, they actually managed to win in 8. It was a 3 versus 9, something silly. They managed to capture a zone. I don't know what went on, but 100 Thieves, man, they lost that control, and from there, FaZe lost control. From there on out, it was a real slip slope where 100 Thieves just managed to win all the clutch situations and ended up winning 3-2 in the series. So 100 Thieves go marching on. FaZe end up finishing top 16 at the COD Champs 2019. And finally, Team Heretics taking on Team Elevate. Another map 5 thriller, of course. I believe Elevate went 2-0 up in the series. Heretics ended up taking it to map 5, but Elevate came out on top. Heretics, actually, a Search and Destroy, has been quite good this weekend. So for both of those SMDs to go the way of Elevate has been kind of a shock to me at the very least. But that means the Spaniards are out in top 16, 1 European team down at the very least. But that does set the stage for day 4 of the Call of Duty World Championship 2019. Of course, 12 teams remain. We're going to talk about these losers bracket matchups. I've already talked about those winners bracket matches. Of course, Team War moving on versus Splyce means that they will be facing either Optic Gaming or Enigma 6 in losers round 2. Now, I will say there are a lot of matches here that could potentially be rematches of group play, like pretty much every single one. You've got Team War going head-to-head with potentially Enigma 6. I can absolutely see that happen. I mean, to me, Optic and Enigma 6 is 50-50. I do have Enigma 6 coming out on top, but if Optic wins, we will be seeing War versus E6 again. If Singularity wins, if LG loses their match versus Reciprocity, they will be facing Singularity once again, and Luminosity have looked a lot better than they did previously. I personally have Rec coming out on top of Luminosity, so I do think we will see LG and Singularity again. Of course, Sicario and Units was the winners bracket matchup that we were talking about earlier on. There I have Units coming out on top of that one. That means we will see Sicario on 100 Thieves again in losers round 2. Honestly, I don't see 100 Thieves losing that to Sicario, especially with the way they managed to compose themselves against FaZe Clan. But we'll see what happens. And finally, last but not least, you have E United or Evil Geniuses going head-to-head with Team Elevate. To be honest, I don't see Evil Geniuses beating E United, so I kind of see this being an EG versus Team Elevate matchup in losers round 2. So that'll be very interesting to see at the very least. But that is going to be the losers bracket. Of course, if I had to pick anyone to come out, I don't necessarily think Team War will be able to beat Optic Gaming. They may be able to beat Enigma 6 if it comes to pass. Singularity, I think they're going to absolutely take on LG. Not so sure about Reciprocity, so I think they'll be hoping for LG in that series. Sicario have to beat Units, I'll be honest. That's how I think that sort of bracket has to go for them. They have to beat Units because they do not want to go into the shark pit that is 100 Thieves. And finally, E United, Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses, I think, will be fine here. Team Elevate are not in a good position anyway. They barely got through pools. They barely got past Heretics. To be honest, I don't necessarily think Elevate will win regardless of who they get, but anything can happen. It's COD Champs. I mean, the entire tournament's been bloody manic all weekend long. So who knows what will happen, but that's going to be the losers bracket, and that's going to be my day 3 review of the Call of Duty Champs 2019. Of course, day 4 starts about 6 PM BST if you're in the UK at twitch.tv/Call of Duty, and of course the Bravo stream on twitch.tv/Call of Duty Bravo. Great custom team as always. But for me in this video, that's going to do it. If you did like what you saw today, please like the video, subscribe to my channel for all things amateur Call of Duty, and I'll see you guys in the next one.